So to start our square, you're going to chain 50. Now this doesn't really fit on my screen very well. You're going to chain 50. Now I know this sounds like a lot. Don't panic, just count carefully. So chain 50, and then get some more yarn, and then you are going to skip the very first chain. So not this chain on your hook, skip the very next chain, and then do a single crochet into the second chain, and then you're going to single crochet all the way along right to the end, and you will have 49 single crochets. So count your stitches as you work along and make sure you have 49 single crochets. So here we go, 49 single crochets later. Now don't panic about this because how it looks, because being long, because it is going to sort of fold halfway, it's going to sort of turn and be our square. It's going to make our corner, so don't worry about that at all. So what you're going to do is chain 1, turn your work. Now this chain 1, normally we would count it as a turning chain, but in this pattern it counts as our first stitch. So on every round, on every row, you're going to ignore the very first stitch and work into the next stitch along. Okay, and we're going to work every stitch in the back loop only. So if you look at your stitch, you have 2 loops on your stitch. Now, 2 loops there, 2 strands. The one closest to you is the front loop, and the one furthest away is the back loop. So you want to go over this first strand and under the back strand, and that's the back loop, and then do your single crochet, and then over the strand, under the back one, and do your next stitch. That's 2, over the first loop, under the second, and that's your third stitch. So continue along. You want to do 22 stitches, not counting your chain, 22 single crochets in that back loop. So once more, over this front strand, under the back one, and that's your 4th stitch. So continue along, 22 single crochets. Okay, when you've done 22 stitches, you're going to do a single crochet 3 together. Now still in the back loops, so we're going to make the next 3 stitches all together. Now this can be a bit tricky with 3, but let's go for it. So put your hook into the back loop of the next stitch. Now no yarn to pull up. Put your hook into the back loop of the next stitch, and then into the back loop of the 3rd stitch. By then it could feel a little bit tight or tricky, so you now should have 3 loops there, 1 from each stitch, and your loop that was on your hook. And then you're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops, and that means that you've done 1 stitch here in the space of 3 stitches. And this is what's going to help our square form a corner and also start to decrease to work down to the final corner. So now you're going to work along again into the back loop of the next stitch, and you're going to do 23 stitches along, because we're doing the exact same amount on this side as we did on the first side, but we had that first chain. So we had 22 stitches plus chain, making 23. So 23 stitches along here will take you to your last stitch. So here we go, done my 23, and there you can see it's already starting to form that corner. Okay, it will be a bit twisty and a bit floppy, but don't panic, it will come good. So now the pattern shows us working 2 rows of colour at a time. I'm just going to do 4 rows of colour at a time. We have got several rows to go because this is single crochet. We've got quite a few rows to do, so I'm going to do 4 rows of each at a time, rather than keep changing. So if you want to, you can change colour now, add your new colour in, and then you can choose to carry this yarn back through under your stitches, or you can cut it and then have to sew it in afterwards. It's completely up to you. Carrying it can be a lot more simpler in the fact you haven't got more ends to sew in. But like I said, completely up to you as to which you prefer to do. But if you carry your yarn, just keep it to the back of your stitches and work your new colour over it. But I'll show you that in the next, when I change colour. I'm going to do 2 more rounds of this colour, or rows of this colour, sorry, and then I'll be changing. So I'm going to do 4 rows of each colour rather than 2 as the pattern shows, just to make mine bigger blocks. You are now going to chain 1 as before, and just as before, this will count as your first stitch. Each row we will be decreasing by 2 stitches. Okay, so on the previous row we had 44 stitches. Sorry, on the previous row we had 46 stitches, and then our single crochet together. But this row we're going to have 44. So this first chain counts as your first stitch, and as I said before, ignore your very first single crochet on the end there. And then you're going to single crochet in the next 21 stitches, so the back loop of the next 21 stitches. So remember, you go over the first loop and under the back loop. Okay, and you're going to do 21 stitches along. Okay, you probably already guessed, but our next 3 stitches are going to be single crochet 3 together. So go into the back loop of the first stitch, and then the back loop of the next stitch. Your middle stitch will be that one that you made on the previous single crochet 3 together, and then the back loop of the third stitch. Well, we've got 1. Let's try that again, shall we? 1, 2, and 3. There we go. 4 loops on your hook all together. Yarn over and pull through all 4. And then you're going to continue your single crochets along the last part of this, and you're going to do 22 stitches. Okay, now your last stitch will be under that chain 1 that you did at the beginning. Okay, so there we go. You can see that the corner is now forming a lot better. Okay, so we've got 1 more row of well, for me, 1 more row of this colour, or if you changed colour, you've got 1 more row of that new colour. So as always, this is row 4, chain 1, turn your work into the second stitch, do a single crochet in that back loop, and you're going to do 20 stitches. Okay, when you've done 20 stitches, it's that single crochet 3 together again. So go into the back loop of the first stitch, and then into the back loop of the next stitch, and then, oops, I've got more than just a back loop there, I think. Back loop, and then into the back loop of the third stitch. So you've got 4 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. There we go. And then you're going to do your single crochets along in the back loops for the next 21 stitches. Always 1 more stitch on this side than this side. So we did 20 there, 21 on this side. Okay, now I've finished that row, all done. Now, depending on how many rows you're doing of your colours, kind of depends whether you're carrying it now. I am doing 4 rows of each colour rather than 2, so I don't really want to carry my yarn all the way up and along, back and along, up and along, back and along, like for 4 rows. So what I've done is I've just fastened off my first colour, my purple. I've fastened that off, I've joined in my new colour, And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work over this tail. I've actually cut the tail quite long. I'm going to work over that tail, and then and I'm going to also work over the tail, hopefully, of this new yarn as well, just to weave that in. And we're sorted. But by all means, carry your yarn if it helps. If you're only doing 2 rows, it's not much, and all will be good. So with the new colour, or with whatever colour you're using, we're going to start as usual with our chain 1 for our first stitch. So then you're going to ignore your first stitch here, and you're going to go into your second stitch and do your single crochet into that second stitch. There we go. And then you are going to work along, and you're going to do 18 this time. 18, no, row 5, sorry, 19. One less than before. We did 20 on this side last time. So you're going to do 19 this time. Okay, 19 stitches later, it's time for our single crochet 3 together. So put your hook, stop that yarn, put your hook under the first loop, so the back loop of the first stitch. Depending on how tight you've done your stitches, depends how easy or tricky it can be. So it's 1, and then under the next stitch 2, and the third stitch 3, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 of those previous colour and this existing colour, and you've made just 1 stitch. And then you're going to single crochet in the back loop of the next 20 stitches. Okay, so turn your work, chain 1 to count as your first stitch, ignore that first single crochet. Working into the next one, you're going to do 18 single crochets along, 18. And then you're going to do your single crochet 3 together, and then you're going to do 19. So 18, 3 together, 19. Okay, so this is what I have so far. You can see it's really making that corner now. So we're just going to continue in exactly the same way, decreasing 1 on each side every row. So I'm going to continue 2 more rows of this colour. We're going to do chain 1 and turn, and then we're going to do 17 stitches, single crochet 3 together, and then 18. 17, 3 together, and then 18. Okay, so I've done my 17, 3, then 3 together, then my 18, and I've turned it over to the right side, and this is what you should have. Right side, there we go. This is what you should have going on now. So if you can see the texture, you've got your steps forming for your steps on the square. There we go. It actually shows it on both sides, but just a different texture on the front. So I know it's the front because I've got my tail here from my initial slip knot is on my left, and that's where I started. So there we go. Love it. Very, very lovely technique. So to continue, now I want to try and get this video out to you on time. I've not been well, and so I've been a bit short of time. So I want to try and get this put together and up to you on time tonight. So I'm going to leave you to continue the rest of it yourself. I think you've got the hang of it now. Each time you're just going to decrease 1 each side. So you're going to, on your next row, don't forget you do your chain 1, and then you turn, and then you do your stitches along. So on the next row you'll do 16, and then your 3 together, and then 17. So 16, 17. The next row, it will be 16, 17, and then it will be 15, 16, and then 14, 15, 13, 14, 12, 13. So each row you're just going down one each time on each side. So just continue in that way, and I will put up a photo of someone else's square to show you the finished result, which you would have also seen on the intro there before. So I will get this finished by the time we have the album up in group. You can see my finished work in the photo album later, but I'm going to get this video out to you now. I hope that's been enough to help you. Give us any comments, questions that you need. Ask us, ask away, ask in group if you need any help or more info, and just continue as you're going every time. Like I said, just decreasing one each side and doing that 3 together in the center, and you will end up your very last row, oh no, your last from one row, you will have 1 on one side and 2 on the other. So one side it will just be your chain, and then your other side it will be 2 stitches, and then on your very last row you will just do all those 3 stitches together. You'll finish with a single crochet 3 together. This one here will have come all the way down here, and it will be your very last stitch. So I hope that's enough for you guys, and get this up to you in time to help you out. Till next time, take care, just keep hooking, and don't let your tea get cold.